Okay, I'm sitting here, this is Phil Simborg, and I'm talking to one of my students. His name is Matt Cohen-Geyer, and if you think he's one of my students, then I can sell you a bridge real easily, too. Matt is currently ranked the number 5 player in the world, and many people think he's underrated because of quite a few of his performances lately, including in the dual in San Antonio, playing a 9-point match under 1.0, which pretty well shocked everybody. But Matt used to live in Chicago, and he travels the world, and he's a friend of mine. So whenever I have a headache or a real problem, he's one of the people I go to. And this is a play that I had a real problem with. So before we get into Matt's explanation and my perplexes with this problem, take a look at this yourself. Look at the score. It's 3 away, or 0-0 to 3. And white is holding a 2 cube, and red has a 4-1 to play. Think about how you would play it first, and let's be quiet for a second, and you can think about it, and then we'll talk about it. Moment of silence for the play. Okay, well, real quick, let me tell you what went through my head. I thought about coming in with the 4 and playing safe and quiet. That's the pedestrian play. I thought about coming in with the 1 and getting really wild and hitting with the 4. And I thought about coming in with the 4 and hitting with the 1. I didn't see too many other logical plays. I was afraid to make any of the wild plays because of the cube. I was afraid that if I'd made too wild a play, I might get doubled out, or if I made too wild a play, he might not double me because he's too good, and I might lose so many gammons that I might lose the match. So I ended up saying to myself, you know, I want to play this guy another game. So I just came in with the 4 and moved 4 to 3. Let's see what Extreme Gammon says. I'm going to hit the plus button, and it'll take a couple of seconds. But while it's doing this, Matt, what would you play over the board?
Hi there, and thanks for the introduction. So, Extreme shows that coming in with the 4 and hitting with the 1 is best. And the one problem you might have here is if you just come in with the 4 and play 4 to 3 and then kind of pick up your dice, it looks like an easy roll. But, you know, it's still already touched on something. First thing you kind of want to do is look at the score, which is 3 away, so you're close to the end of the match, and the cube is on 2. And white's holding the cube. So this is a little bit unusual. It's not like a money game where red's holding the cube. You know, red is an underdog, but white has the cube. And if there's a redouble, it'll kill all the gammons. And even if there's not a redouble, at least one player is going to get to Crawford in this game.
Let me just clarify something. He just said that if there's a redouble, it will kill all the gammons. One of the things I was worried about when I make this wild play is that I'm going to get gammoned about 24% of the time, it says. But what Matt's saying is if the cube goes to 4 and he redoubles, and we're going to take, those 24 gammons don't matter anymore. They're worth 0. So all I have to do is worry about winning the game. That's what he means by killing the gammons. And I'm explaining this a little deeper because many of our people are watching may be beginners or intermediates.
Mm-hmm. And gammons still do count against you. It's just that since you're an underdog, white's looking to redouble. And if he does redouble, then the gammons won't count. So it's not necessarily that gammons don't count at all, but if the cube does go to 4, then you don't have to worry about getting gammon.
So first of all, why is this play better, whether he doubles or not? Why would I rather make this play than this play?
Well, you can see you win more often by hitting. And the reason for that is you just put your opponent on the bar when he has 3 blots. You could fan, and then you could cover or hit the other blot. So you cover with a 5 or 4 or an ace, and you hit with a 6. If you make the other play, look at the other play. Now, if he rolls a 4, he makes the 10 points, and now you have 4 checkers stuck on his 4 points that you know, you have to roll a 5 to get out, basically, or otherwise you're going to start crashing. If you roll a 6, he comes out, and again, now you have the 4 checker stuck on his 4 point, and he's out. So basically, anytime you have a position where you're a significant dog, you want to look for larger plays that take more risk, because, you know, you're kind of losing anyway. You've already got 4 men back. Getting another one back doesn't hurt you that much. And especially the thing to look at here is that he has the 2 outside blots that you can pick up if he doesn't roll a good number. So for white, 9 numbers, fan, all the big numbers, and ace-6 is also not good. And some of the other entering aces, like ace-5, are not fantastic. But
Okay, so what you're saying is that there's a real, this is risky, but there's a real upside to this play if he doesn't come in or comes in with a bad number. So right now, if I make a quiet play, I have about 36% winning chances. But let's see what happens if we make the big play. Let's go ahead and take it a step further. By the way, I'm going to hit Control-C so I can always come back to the original position. But let's try Matt's play and Extreme Gammon's play, and let's give white one of those 9 numbers where he rolls a 6-5, 6-4, 5-4, any of those numbers that don't come in. And now let's put red on roll, and let's just see what red's chances are. Let's put red on roll, and let's make it a cube action. Even though you can't double, you can still see what his equity is. Look at this. Red all of a sudden is a favorite. He's got a 58% chance to win this game in that sequence.
And red can actually win a gammon because white has the 3 blocks.
Yeah, red wins gammons about 11% of the time, according to this.
No, red wins gammons.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it backwards. He wins gammons 30% of the time. And there's a lot of great rolls here. Now, we don't have to guess what the great rolls are. This is one of the tools I love. If you go to Analyze, Dice Distribution, and just look at the graph, you can see, I'll move it off to the side a little bit. Look what happens when red rolls a 6-6. Of course, he hits and covers and does all kinds of great things. 6-1 hits and makes this point. 5-5 hits and makes a point. 6-2 hits and makes the 2 point. There's a lot of really great rolls here that are to the plus. Of course, there's some really, really bad rolls here, but at least you've got a smattering of rolls which do really, really well for you. Now let's go back to the original position. This is how you really learn about a position, by comparing what happens with both. Let's make the other play, and let's give white a bad roll where maybe he doesn't make this point, and he doesn't get out. That'd be pretty bad for white. Let's see what a fairly bad roll is for white by just putting white on roll. And so instead of us guessing, again, we can go to Dice Distribution, and we can see that an average roll for white would be around a 5-4 is an average roll. He plays 14, 10, 7, 2. Actually, that seems like a pretty good roll to me. But okay, because he makes this point. But let's give him that. That's called an average roll. A 4, plays 7-2. Now let's look at red's equity and his upsides and downsides. First of all, if we just do cube action here, remember red had about 58% after he had a bad roll last time, and now he's only got 35%. Wow, look at how dramatic that is. And now let's go to Dice Distribution, and you can also see the pattern. Look how few rolls there are that stick way up in the air. Even the best roll, and even the best roll, double 5, only gets you to about 30%. And all the other rolls, even your good rolls, you have a negative equity. They go down. That means a negative equity.
Anything that's not a 5 is very bad.
Yeah, anything that's not a 5. Now, that's when he rolled a mediocre roll, according to Extreme Gammon, if you made the other play. So that's pretty dramatic. Now, here's this, unless you have more to talk about that play, here's the other real problem that I have with this position. Let me go back to the original. The problem was I was erroneous in my thinking about the cube. After you make the brave play, and I considered it, and white's on roll here, what happens with the cube action? And before Matt answers that or I answer that or anybody, think about it yourself. If you're white and you're on roll here, what would you do? Give it some thought. You're holding a 2 cube. Do you roll or do you redouble? Okay, well, the answer, again, surprised the hell out of me. It's a huge take if he redoubles, and I wasn't sure it was a take at all, and it's not even a redouble. It might be a redouble if we roll it out. It's close enough. But the point is it's a monstrous take here. Well, why is this a take, Matt?
Well, you only need 25% of the score, because if you pass, then you're at 1 away, 3 away. So you need to win 2 games. So that's 25%, 50% times 50%. And, you know, you don't care about the gammons at all. And there's plenty of ways for red to win this. If white just doesn't hit, either he fans or comes in on the ace, or even if he hits, you can still win if you just, you know, say roll 2 and then you come in and cover. There's lots of ways. You've got the anchor, so you're always going to have some kind of play.
So the reason this looks like such a scary take is because we're used to dropping because we're afraid of gammons in addition to afraid of losing. And once you totally wipe out the idea that gammons don't matter, this is not as bad a game as you think. It wins 36% of the time.
I want to say something also. You said, like, you're kind of afraid of your opponent redoubling or playing for a gammon, or maybe it's even too good. The main thing you're trying to avoid when you're thinking about your opponent doubling isn't so much a situation where you get redoubled or your opponent might play on, or you don't really know what's going on, but you don't want to fear the consequence, you know. The main thing you want to avoid is your opponent having an efficient redouble that's like right on the border of a take or pass, or like pretty close to a take or pretty close to a pass. This is pretty far from that. So, and there's a lot of volatility. You know, if he hits, then maybe he has a great game. If he doesn't hit, then maybe he has a terrible game. So,
yeah, an efficient redouble, this number wouldn't be 0.45. It would be something close to 0.
Right.
Where it's barely a take or barely a pass. And what Matt is saying is he gains a lot of value from the cube by doubling at the point where you have a tough take or pass. That means if you do pass, he's picked up a lot of equity, and if you do take, he's got a pretty good position. But if he doubles when you have a huge drop or a huge take, that cube didn't do him very much good.
Correct. So he could double here, but then you'd have a huge take. You know, it's pretty close to a double or not. But, or he could, like, wait until he improves, but usually in that case you're going to have a huge pass because he'll have hit you and you won't have rolled a good number, and then it'll just be a big drop.
Okay, is this borderline double or no double because he's almost too good or because he's not good enough?
Because he's not good enough.
And the reason you can tell that is what? This number?
Partly is that you win 37% of the time, and he only wins a gammon 24% of the time. So, you know, his gammon wins are much lower than your plain game-winning chances. So that means he's not good enough.
Mm-hmm. See, I get confused on that, and I'm sure other people do too. Sometimes I know there's positions where it's too good to double, but it's still a take. You know, and that can happen like a 2-away, 4-away, and
Sure.
places where the gammon values are high.
Mm-hmm.
The gammon value here, by the way, that's an important thing to know. The gammon value here with the cube on 2 is about 0.5. And if you're not sure of the Gammon value, that's just something that Matt takes for granted because he doesn't even have to think about it. And basically, I do too because I've studied it. But,
0.5.
Yeah.
It's usually in that range.
Yeah, it's usually around 0.5 unless you've got a real reason to think otherwise. But it's real close to 0.5.
Like 2 away, 4 away, or something like that, then it changes. But for most scores, 5 away, 7 away, 4 away, 8 away, it's usually around 0.5.
Yeah. Well, at 5 away with the cube on 2, it's 0.655. So there's all kinds of ranges when you start getting closer to the end, but it just so happens that at this score it's 0.5, and it would be a big difference if the Gammon value, if you change this score, if you change this to 2 away, 4 away. Let's see what happens at 2 away, 4 away with the same position. Let's say that white is 4 away and red is 2 away. Of course, well, that's an automatic cube. So
you have to move the cube position.
Yeah, we can't do it. We can't do it at that score. But you get the point. The Gammon value matters.
Just look at it at I don't know, 4 away, 5 away, or something, or whatever. 5 away, 5 away, 0, 0.
5 away, 5 away. The Gammon value is 1.0 here, or close to 1.0. I think it's 9.8 something.
1, 1. 4 away, 4 away.
Yeah, 4 away, 4 away, I think is just under 1. Let's see. Cube information, 982.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see what would happen if the Gammon value, now it becomes a redouble. And it even though it wipes out the Gammons, because the take point at 4 away is 33% instead of 25. So he's much closer to an efficient cube. I guess that's the reason he could lose his market very easily when your opponent only has 36% and his take point is 33.
Right.
So that's another reason that it's so important to know these take points. And I'm not a genius at figuring out take points. Doing this risk over risk plus reward and Neil's numbers over the board drives me crazy. So I just made up a take point table and memorized the darn thing. And, I just made up my own take point chart. Here's my take point chart for 9 away, 9 away. Now, if you think I've memorized all these numbers, you're nuts. I'm not that smart. But I have memorized the numbers at 5 away, and down. And I have memorized the recube take points for key scores. And then for the bigger scores, you can see I have some in red. What I've done is I put the ones in red that are goofy, that have really funny different values for the Gammons or the take points. And the rest of them I'm just using about 22% for the take point and 0.55 for the Gammon value, and I'm close enough. I don't have to memorize everything. And for the recubes, I also have a recube take point chart. And again, you're nuts if you think I could memorize all these numbers, but I have looked at the real key ones. I just proved to you that I instantly knew the recube take point at 4 away, and 3 away, 3 away. It doesn't take brain surgery to do that, but if you're going to play in a tournament and you're going to play match play and do well, you better know those numbers. Matt, I want to thank you. Unless you have anything more to add, we'll come to a close. Matt's going to do several of these from time to time with me. John O'Hagan, Perry, Mary Hickey, Mochi. I've got several other people lined up that are going to be guest lecturers for us on USBGF. Here's another reason to be a member of USBGF. These videos are not available to you or to anyone unless you're a member of USBGF. So keep joining, keep renewing, and encourage your friends to support. Anything else on this, Matt?
Thanks for having me. And,
well, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm going to end the recording now, and thank you.
All right.